Hello and welcome to AMA Puget Sound's Coffee Talk series, live on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. We've got a great show today. We've got Bob Cargill. I'm so excited, Bob. How are you?
I am doing ridiculously awesome, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Ridiculously awesome. I love that. And I think I even commented that on one of your posts yesterday. I'm so excited you're here. You and I have known each other for quite a number of years through the American Marketing Association. How long have you been involved? I passed 10 years this year.
So really good question. I started almost 10 years ago as a volunteer on the social media team, and I still am a volunteer on the social media team. I honestly, true confession, I wasn't a member that at that time, but I was allowed to volunteer. I don't know how many years I've been a member, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years. It could be more like five. But I'm immersed in
Yes.
AMA, all things AMA,
Mhm.
and love it. It's a great organization, and so proud and happy to be a member.
Absolutely. You're kind of the superstar, especially when Leadership Summit comes around. It's like, have you talked to Bob? Like, I didn't get a chance. We didn't get a chance to talk this year. I was bringing some new board members in this year, so I was trying to get them all immersed and drinking the Kool-Aid, the AMA Kool-Aid, of course. That it tastes pretty good. So
Yeah,
George,
no, that's an easy chore, if you will. It's really not a chore. Once you
no.
introduce someone to AMA, they see they feel the buzz, and especially at the Leadership Summit. I mean, it's
Mhm.
a high that pretty much lasts the whole year once you've been to these things, these events.
Absolutely. And I'm excited for regional summit or regional retreats coming up in November. So we're
Yes.
talking about all this. So if you want to learn more, join your local AMA chapter. You can go to ama.org and find your local chapter. We'll talk more later, but we want to talk more about you, Bob. We're here to talk about you. And your marketing career. I think we're going to be alluding to your book. If you want to show off your book a little bit.
Flash the book. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. 20
20
jobs.
jobs, 20
Yes,
lessons.
yes. So we're going to be learning about what you've learned, and I love it. So I'm about I'm in my second career, and I'm about 10 years into my current marketing career. But I still need to learn, and I'm still learning. What does it take to achieve success as a professional marketer? What have you learned, Bob?
Yeah, no, awesome question. I been in marketing a lot longer than that. That's why I can say 20 jobs. They add up over the years, especially when you're a creative, like I have been, meaning creative director, copywriter, social media director. Right brain is my superpower, if you will, if I have one. And what does it take to succeed? So many things, to be honest with you. um, Working hard. I don't necessarily like the term hustle culture, but long hours is something I put in early in my career, especially, but still to this day, I live and breathe marketing. So you have to sink yourself into it, immerse yourself, as I said I do with AMA Boston. I've been like that with everything I've done in my both my personal and professional life. So work hard, long hours, learn from the masters. So, read the books, go to the sessions, join AMA, where you will learn from the masters. Not even a question. And I also tie back and tell me if my answer is too long here. Just feel free to cut me off. I tie things back to sports. I played a lot of sports growing up, and to this day, I'm a runner, and that was a big thing for me, running track and cross country in high school. And I had a coach who really inspired me and instilled in me, all these different rules, lessons, mantras, like get a head start in the competition in cross country. He would teach us to sprint across the field ahead of the opponents so that we'd get into the woods before the opponents. And the woods was a narrow path where it was hard for them to pass you. So
Mhm.
get a head start, work hard, get to work early, if you will. Don't
Yeah.
leave things to the last minute. I literally learned a lot of lessons like that running,
Mm.
marathon running, long distance. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm a very good example, meaning, cranking it out just like I did, 35 plus years ago to this day. He also told me, I don't know if he told others, tie a 10-foot imaginary string to the person in front of you in a race. So
Hmm.
when I am thinking about business, and it is to a degree a competition. I don't mean against your colleagues, but in general, you're performing. Always look at, say, who's competing for that piece of business, or who's higher than you on the corporate ladder, and stick close to them. Learn from them, if that makes sense. And someday you'll surpass them. And I'm going to end with one more lesson, because when I said that, it reminded me the one lesson that sticks out that my older brother always said is, don't be afraid to be number two, because if you're always number two, eventually you'll be number one.
Right. Right, exactly. And once
Yeah,
you get to the top, where else do you go? Your race is over. And like you said, life's a journey. So you want
yeah,
something to keep chasing. So I
that's
like
perfect, Julie. I agree. You got to always have goals. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And I love what you said about reading and learning because marketing has changed. I would imagine marketing is different than it was 20 years ago. It was different when I earned my marketing degree in 2009. Things have changed since then. And I learned traditional marketing and we were just going into digital. I'm like, darn it.
No, absolutely, and that's a big part of my book as well. I mean, I talk about all the different jobs I work, but it's more the evolution of marketing. 1983, I started in Manhattan, um, behind an electric typewriter, and that was a pretty snazzy electric typewriter. I thought that was high tech, and I had a stereo in my office where I listened to records and tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I know I'm old school, going
I was
way.
3.
What's that?
I was 3.
If you were even born, Julie, come on.
I was. I
So
was.
okay, well, you weren't listening to records and tapes.
Yes,
Yeah,
I was.
maybe
Yes, I
maybe you
was.
were, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what. Yeah, not top 40 rock or
My mom did.
yeah. There you go. Pat
My mom did all
Benatar,
that. Yeah.
Pat Benatar, Rick Springfield. Trying to
Prince.
think. Motley
Mhm.
Crue, um, Rolling
Springsteen.
Stones, Springsteen. But so the question was, what was the question? Evolution of marketing, things change.
Yeah.
Um, I wrote for a catalog back then, the Record and Tape Club. That's where I was going with that. It was a cool job listening to records and tapes. It was print, it was direct mail. Yes. So I literally in my office with the door, first job out of college. That was cool. Out of
Yeah.
graduate school, and wrote for the catalog, and it was mail order. It was negative option. You sign them up to the RCA Record and Tape Club, and they get the featured album or tape of the month, unless they send that card back saying, no, I do not want it. That's classic marketing that still probably works. It's subscription
Mhm.
marketing, it's negative option. So it's all the basics, the principles, just, before the internet.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. That was like your unsubscribe, basically, when they sent
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. So you're right. To this day, you do get asked to subscribe to magazines, and
Mhm.
it's automatically renewed. I mean, a lot of products and services work that way nowadays. I mean,
Mhm.
not Amazon, Netflix and Hulu, and streaming services, and you name it.
Mhm.
Magazines are still around, and yeah, you get signed up. If you don't remember to say, hey, I don't
Mhm.
want this anymore, you'll keep getting it.
Oh,
That's
yeah. Oh, yeah.
marketing 101.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, I mean, I know we're going off subject, but I'm sure like once the person felt that in their hands, like, oh, well, I'm going to keep it now. It's already, I've got it, as opposed to sending it back. I'm just curious, like, way off subject, but I'm just curious, like, what the return rate would have been.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers. Being right brain, I can use that excuse. I don't remember the numbers, but psychologically, you are correct. So it was a featured album, if you will, of the month. So it was good stuff, no matter what. So you're right. People either did want it, therefore didn't say no, or got it and said, "Wow, I like this. I'll keep it," or forgot to return it. So yeah, I'm sure the numbers were high. It was. effective marketing. I mean, and that was great experience early on in my career.
Getting to know customers and patterns. That's so amazing. That's so amazing when, yeah, you didn't have the tracking like we do now. We're going to pivot a little more, and I want to learn from you about how myself or others can take advantage of leadership opportunities.
Yeah, so I was going to say I've never been shy to take advantage of leadership opportunities, but I was early in my career, certainly even before my career, in college and when I was younger in school. But what you have to do, and there was an article I read at one point. I think the author was Linda Weltner. Um, I know it was a Boston Globe article years ago, so I think it was Linda Weltner. Not sure on that, but it was something about you have to make the leap from student to teacher, and that's a big leap for a lot of people psychologically, emotionally. And I did make that leap at mid stage, or maybe even very early mid stage of my career, thankfully, because then you find there are a multitude of leadership opportunities. They're everywhere, and maybe even more so in this day and age. The need for good leaders
Mhm.
is great, and you have to believe and have the self confidence that you can lead a group, and you will
Mhm.
find that most people, the majority, overwhelming majority of people, want to be led.
Mhm.
Most people are quite shy about getting into that leadership position, whether it's a confidence thing or whether, back to one of my earlier points, they don't want to work that hard, because leading is extra work, but the
Yeah.
rewards, the satisfaction, off the charts, if you ask me.
Exactly, exactly. And I would probably say responsibility and accountability are probably under that as well, of just the fear of wanting to lead. I've heard that from other folks. When asked, "Hey, do you want to be president?" And they're like, "No, no, 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 no."
Yeah, for different reasons. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably, dozens of reasons. They could be nervous, in public speaking, running a meeting, not confident in making decisions. To what I said, they don't want to work that hard, because it's, you go to bed at night with that responsibility often, one of the last things you think about,
Hmm.
and wake up, one of the first things you think about. It's But I frankly live for that responsibility at this point in my life, and have for quite a few years. I think that is, I see the title. I went like this, but it's like that to my book behind me, 20 Jobs, 20 Lessons. It's one reason I moved from job to job, seeking those leadership opportunities, because I wasn't, and still am not, that comfortable not leading. And maybe that's unique, but I'd rather be a leader than a follower. Not even close. Um, would I prefer to follow? I 10 out of 10 times I'll say I'll lead.
Hmm. I hear you. I'm the same way. Unless it's a subject I'm not quite versed yet, and I still need to learn, then I love to learn from someone else. But yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Don't get me wrong. I should say, when I said 10 out of 10, shouldn't always say always. There are going to be exceptions. You
yeah,
only have so much time in the
yeah.
day, and you're right. You don't know everything, but if it's up my alley and I have the time, I'll do it.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. You mentioned time, and that's definitely something that needs to be discussed when it comes to leadership. Is when to say no, and what you have budgeted for time, because you don't want to take on leadership roles and you don't have the time for it. So I'm curious, how, just kind of off subject again, like, how do you say no if you need to?
I've always, frankly, had that problem to this day. Although I think I'm getting much better at it. And it's probably because I just literally, am usually fully booked, personally and professionally. So there's very little wiggle room, which makes the decision easier for me. Um, but story from the book, early in my career, third job. I was going to say, no, second job. Yeah, it was the second job. Someone gave me a coffee mug that said, "No more Mr. Nice Guy." And I'm not saying, yeah, I am saying that saying yes is often associated with the quality of being a nice guy or a nice gal, meaning you don't want to say no because you don't want to disappoint people, hurt feelings, appear like the bad person who won't take it on. So I've struggled with that most of my career, but I think I'm better at it now, saying no, but it often is an easy decision because I just can't take it on. So I have to look at cost benefit and is it going to, is it a win-win? I'm usually looking for win-wins, not something that's just going to benefit me or just going to benefit the other. Frankly, it might be a little selfish, but I want it to be beneficial. Like today's conversation, I'm hoping you know me being a guest is beneficial to you, and
Yeah.
you asking me to be a guest is beneficial to me. So
Mhm.
this is a perfect example of the situations I will almost always say yes to.
Perfect. Perfect. And that's a great segue to public speaking. And why is it so invaluable to success in the business world to go out and speak? What have you found?
Yeah, so there's early, perfect question, a great question, great topic. I do a lot of videos on YouTube, and I've talked about this a lot. That when I was young, I was afraid of public speaking. I had the typical, which is not uncommon at all, fear of public speaking. In high school, a teacher, true story, um, said, beginning of the semester, beginning of the course year, first class, if you're afraid of doing an oral report in this class, you should leave now. And I left then. I was afraid of public speaking in high school, but in college, I took a public speaking course. Yay.
Mhm.
And then later on in life, but early in my career, I took Toastmasters, which is a public speaking organization. And the benefit I have always seen noted, all the successful people, I don't think there are hardly any exceptions, if any, are good public speakers, are confident in public, have the gift of gab, if you will. And look at any company, all your leaders are, very comfortable getting in front of people and talking. So I figured that out early on. And again, I'm not saying I'm at all highly skilled at it, but I am very comfortable at it.
Mhm.
And I think it's always learning to do. With my braces, it's not as is easy to do. But I'm actually getting used to that too, and kind of leaning into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so I'm trying to joke there, but I think public speaking is everything. You're in a boardroom. If you can speak up, you're not shy. Command a presence, articulate your points, sell. You're gonna rise to the top. So it's one of the first skills I encourage young people to acquire sooner
Mhm.
than I did. Young age, acquire that skill.
It's very important. I was terrified, and so I had to take a class in high school, and that wasn't enough. I had to take another one in college because I had to get over my fear. Side note: I did a how-to speech in my public address class in college where I pierced my friend's ears, and I showed people how to
Whoa,
do that. I got a B or an A in, on that
good for
one.
you.
I worked at Claire's at the time, so I was already piercing ears. But yeah, my how-to. I'm like, I need to stand out. So
I
instead of
love that. And
probably try.
you couldn't be too nervous because you're working with your hands too, and had to
Yep.
be very gentle and
Hmm.
exact,
Yep.
and
Exactly.
piercing that ear. Good for you, Julie. Awesome. That's a
Thank
great story.
Actually, my friend gets all the credit because she was very, very calm and she was fortunately in the class with me, but she
And
was nervous.
willing, yeah, to go through that in front of
Hmm.
people. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
So yeah, think outside the box a little bit if you want to stand out, and I would imagine also when you are doing your speaking engagements, trying to stand out a little bit too, and what do you know and what do you want the audience to know? So
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, not even
Mhm.
a question. And I again, since I turned that corner, and it may tie into that article I read, be the teacher, not the student, might tie into, public speaking skills, might just tie into maturity. But there was a turning point in my career, when I was probably around age 30 or so, 5 years into my career. I'm approximating everything here in terms of those numbers. But don't be afraid of standing out. Don't be afraid of being different. In fact, sometimes, lean into the opposite, dress differently, speak louder. I don't know. Don't hesitate to have things behind you that show who you are, like your background, my background, with our personalities, our geography, where we're from, our
Mhm.
interests, and express that in everything that you do, because there is so much competition, obviously more today than ever. And how you're going to, separate yourself from that competition. And, there's different ways to do that. But yeah, don't be shy. Dress differently. Lean into your identity, your uniqueness, your diversity, whatever your many superpowers are, embrace them.
Mhm. And that's another great segue because that sounds a lot like personal branding. And
Yeah, before it was personal branding. So yeah, not even question. I had my own business in the 90s. When, well, before the internet, and then right around, I remember AOL when I had my own business. I had an email address, kind of early on. That was cool.
Yep.
um, but yeah, personal branding is critical. And I do a lot of teaching, nowadays, and I tell all my students, jump on LinkedIn ASAP, even if you're only a freshman in college, start working in that direction where you put yourself out there. Again, not being shy in person, but we're talking even more so online. I think when we talk about personal branding, LinkedIn, but also Twitter. Also, if you can have a I can't believe I was going to pronounce it YouTube show, almost like what you're doing right now, Julie. Anybody can do this. Doesn't mean anybody can do it as well as you do it, but anybody can do this. Learn the technology, have a podcast, have a YouTube show, have um, a strong presence on Twitter, build a community, and share your knowledge. I tell my students, share what you're learning in class. Find a few areas of specialty that define who you are, and start writing a blog, have a website, get your own domain, your own URL that is in your name, because it's probably almost impossible to get one in your name nowadays. You have to jump and be first. You have to do that sprint, like my coach taught me, right out of the gate. So why not early on in your career learn to brand yourself? And that's going to make a difference when you apply for jobs. When you get those jobs, they're going to realize, hey, this person has an audience. This person can help us sell. Even if your job isn't anything to do with sales, they're going to look at you as a lead magnet. So
Yeah.
personal branding, absolutely, Julie. Boom.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you have any like stories of how you've been using it personally? Not personally, but how you've been you kind of have already, but what are some other things that you've done you personally for personal branding that you found success?
Everything.
Everything.
Everything. So before the internet, when I use direct mail, so as much as I'm known for social media now, I was known for direct mail. There's an article. Oh, you can't see it. It's behind me, but it's in my book, where I was called the junk mail king, if you can believe it. I look at me. I'm finding it in the book, and I'll hold it up to the
Citing your
screen.
own source.
Um, can you see that? Junk mail king. Um,
Mhm.
what, 25, 30 years ago? Where am I going with that? I sent, seriously, I bought about 100 mailboxes at, I think it was the Home Depot, but it was a store like that. I mean, big metal mailboxes, had them painted really colorfully by an artist. And I sent them in boxes with samples of my direct mail to prospective customers saying, this is what I do. I want to do it for you, blah, blah, blah. People started to know me as the guy who sent them a mailbox. So that's personal branding. I really stood out, and just telling you the story you asked, it's in the book. Um, on my own, after the internet came around, um, I started my blog in '04. That was early. That was before people even knew what a blog was. A
Mm-hmm.
blog
Mm-hmm.
is short for web log. Yeah, yay. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to question you in case you didn't know, but you mouthed it as I was saying it. Not
I agree.
everybody knows, and they've been around forever.
Yeah.
Um, since the internet.
Yeah.
But starting one back then was pretty early, and I was swimming upstream for a long time, trying to tell people, social media is where it's at, blah blah blah. You know, started doing YouTube videos, and now I have hundreds. People would not believe it unless they see it, and I wish more people would see them. I have hundreds of
Yes.
social media videos and hundreds of motivational videos
Mm-hmm.
on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And so you asked, I'm doing it daily,
Yeah.
living and breathing it, that working hard thing.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how people, you know, finally, maybe, after all these years, and maybe it took publishing the book, I'm joking, but starting to find my YouTube channel, starting to realize, hey, this guy's been blogging almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Um, you know, yeah, so that's personal branding. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Examples.
Yeah. So to all of you out there, if you're not following Bob on YouTube, also follow on LinkedIn because I love your walk and talks on LinkedIn. I watch those frequently. I love those because then I'm like, oh man, I should be doing something right now. It motivates me, is what I'm saying. So
That
I
makes me happy, Julie. I
yeah,
can't tell you how happy that makes me feel.
yeah,
And you could do them easily.
I
Think
know.
about it. Yeah.
I'm doing this. I actually do have my own YouTube channel where it's very funny that you, with your book, the channel that I'm doing on my own is about all of the retail jobs and customer service jobs I had before going into marketing. And it's really kind of fascinating. And I talk about when I mentioned Claire's earlier. So that's a longer video.
Have
But
I follow? I'm gonna, if I'm not already subscribed, excuse me for that, and I will subscribe. Because I want to look into where you've been and what you've done. I mean, you're
mhm,
being so gracious to have me as a guest, but I need to learn just as much about
yeah,
you.
yeah, I was a video store clerk in the 90s.
Whoa, you mean like
History.
VCR rental?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that those were so
Hollywood Video.
cool, like Blockbuster. But
Hollywood. Yeah, Hollywood
yeah,
Video. But
I
yeah, during
remember.
the
Yeah,
golden age of renting in the late 90s. Yeah.
yeah, that was a
Yeah,
wicked cool thing. That was a cool job.
it was. It was free rentals. Well, yeah, it was cool. It was
Yeah,
cool.
my records
Um,
and tapes, your VCRs, and
yeah,
and
absolutely.
maybe DVDs. I don't know if you were doing it long enough. Um,
Um, I actually went back. I after 2 year after a year and a half, I went back because I needed extra cash, and that's where they were phasing out VHS and going to DVD. So it was really kind of full
you,
circle.
there's a story. Not that I'm an expert on this case study, but VCRs to DVDs and Netflix, and I'm
Yeah.
forgetting his name, the CEO of Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant, brilliant man, brilliant company. And they pivoted. They had to pivot because they were, in fact, they had that business model not unlike, somewhat related to the records and tapes. You'd get
Mm-hmm.
these DVDs, and maybe it was VCRs before that. You might forget to return them and get late charges. But look what Netflix has done. I mean, they're like the, you know, iconic brand. Got to be up there with the top 10 case study stories. Yeah,
Yeah, once I
in
heard that they
marketing.
were a thing, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna lose my job. My job's not gonna exist in a couple of years. So yeah, it's very fascinating. Very fascinating. I could go on and on about that, but I want
We
to learn
could,
one.
yes.
I want to learn one more thing from you. We kind of talked about it at the top of the show about getting involved in trade associations. You and I have both
Yes.
found a lot of success in AMA. There are other organizations out there, and I'm if you want to expand a little more on why you should join one.
As you were asking me that question, and I heard you, I'm a multitasker. Reed Hastings, I think, is the name I was looking for, CEO of
Yes.
Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
anyways, um, why trade associations, right? Why they're so important, why join them, why become a leader in them like you and I, right?
Mhm.
Um, all of the above, meaning everything we've talked about. A trade association gives you the platform, the community, the opportunity, often that you might not get at your paid job, by the way. But then
Mhm.
you go back to your paid job and they say, wow, look what he or she is doing. Look what they are doing
Mhm.
at that trade association. Why aren't we letting them do that here? Um, so it helps you build a network. Um, you learn way, 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 in my mind, more than the average person who just works at the job and goes home and whatever they do when they get home. Because again, there's where you're going above and beyond. There's where you're separating yourself from the competition. Um, you're learning from the best. You're taking on leadership opportunities for no pay. So you're sacrificing. Think of the, character you're building. I could go on. We're
Mhm.
the superstars, and you are a superstar, and I'm gonna say we are. Yes, you are. I think the people who are in trade associations are superstars, and the leaders are the superstars of the superstars. So anyone who's not in those groups, and all those employers, I hope there's like hundreds, if not thousands, listening to us right now, Julie. Um,
Right.
hear me now.
Yes.
Send your employees to AMA,
Mhm.
NEDMA, all the trade associations, whatever they are in your particular vertical, support them, encourage them, and give them more opportunity back in their day jobs working for you,
Mhm.
because they are your most valuable players. How's that? Boom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I came to AMA because I was typically a marketing team of one. And so you don't get that opportunity to bounce ideas off of each other, just geek out about marketing. And, you're talking to the accountant and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So you get AMA and you start to learn others and learn what other folks are doing in their organizations. Like, hey, that's a great idea for a campaign. I'm going to use that. And it's just a lot about sharing knowledge. And I love that aspect.
Yeah,
It's
perspective. And exactly what you said. You are learning from others, getting feedback, social proof,
Mhm.
uh, reinforcement, corroboration, for better or worse. It might be critiques, not always, hey, look at what a great job you're doing, but here's how you can do an even better job. And then you take that back to the office.
Exactly. Exactly. Any big events for AMA Boston coming up in the next couple of months?
So I'd love to say yes, and I can say yes, but not definitively. And what I mean by that is we are in the planning stages,
Mhm.
but tons of things planned. So I just started as president my second go round. I was president for 2 years a few years ago,
Mhm.
and now I'm president again. Our first event was a pop up on the Boston Common, and what I mean by that is we didn't plan it in great detail. We just went and hung out and had like a picnic. Not that many people in attendance, but it was fun. And the people who
Mhm.
did come, it was an intimate gathering. We get to know each other. That was our first event. We are talking to a university in Boston about a joint meeting, which is going to be really cool. That will happen. I can tell you one concrete, the Digital Summit,
Mhm.
Boston, a big conference,
Mhm.
August 24th and 25th, and I will be there, as will one or two others from AMA Boston, with a table, a booth, whatever you want to call it, exhibiting, and we're able to offer a discount code to our audience. I should have that off the top of my head, but I don't. We are planning for ideally networking one event a month and educational one event a month. And we have a podcast, we have a blog, we're emailing our members, our audience. It's not just members,
Mhm.
Boston area marketing professionals. We're emailing them with details. We have a great social media presence. So um, oh, one more event.
Mhm.
See, there's plenty. Um, and I think I know this exact date. It's the 29th of September, I believe, with Pine, the Printing Industries of New England, and with
Mhm.
NEDMA, New England Direct Marketing Association. We are having a joint, like, open house type networking event up in Haverhill, Massachusetts. And and we'll be sharing details with our audience about that very, very soon. So there you go, bunch of things.
Stuff. Yeah, definitely go to their website, follow AMA Boston. I just want a quick plug. We have our big marketing conference coming up in 3 weeks from today. Market Mix, please come. We've got a bunch of folks joining us that day, including some folks that have been on this program. So check us out. Thank you, Bob, so much for being here. I just want to kind of give you a minute or two to either reiterate something that we've discussed or bring up something else that you really want the audience to know.
Yeah, good question. Bob didn't have something planned for this, but I can plan. I can expound extemporaneously quite easily, thanks to Toastmasters and all my years in this business. Marketing is forever changing. We have touched upon that.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching at 3 universities this fall as an adjunct professor, 4 different courses, 4 courses, and I tell my students there are tons of opportunities in marketing. And it's not like when I grew up in marketing that you're a writer or a designer or a production artist. It's, crazy amount of skills, talents is the industry looking for. And ideally, they want people with a multitude of talents. So you want to be a content creator, if you want to be a multimedia producer, again, be in front of the camera, behind the camera, behind the mic, in front of the mic, manage those teams. Data is so critical. Harnessing broadcast, again, TV, radio type skills, because it's not your old school, back in the day marketing anymore. It's crazy different, and it's crazy changing. So, and I love the business. I love it, like there's no tomorrow, and I will be in it as long as, I don't know, forever. There'll be another 20 jobs, 20 lessons, maybe. My brother said that he's waiting for the next book, and with knowing me, I have all the energy in the world. There will be another, whether I write the book, it's going to be a lot of lessons learned that I hope to continue to share with the people I know as we go forward.
Awesome. I love that you continue to share your knowledge and that you're very open and transparent about it. I love it and I appreciate it as a viewer. So thank you so much. Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate your time today. And we've got all of his links down below in the description. Like I said, follow him on YouTube, follow on LinkedIn, follow AMA Boston, and be up to date with what they're doing. You don't necessarily have to be a member of their chapter to follow their stuff. So go ahead and do that. If you like today's episode, like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. So awesome. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Julie. You are ridiculously awesome.
So are you. Even more ridiculously awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.